What is going on, everybody? Welcome back here today to my recap and my winners and losers of the 2019 NBA trade deadline. So there was a lot of trades that went down at the trade deadline. We're going to be going over all the trades that pretty much happened in the last week. So the Kristaps Porzingis trade is going to be in here, even though it wasn't on the day of the deadline or a day or 2 days before the deadline. So I'm going to give a couple winners, a couple neutral winners slash losers that are kind of in the middle, and then I'm going to give my losers. And yeah, so let's get into this. So I'm going to start with my losers, and the first one I think is the biggest loser of the deadline, and that is the LA Lakers. Now, we all know that they were in the AD sweepstakes, and kind of most of us knew it really wasn't going to go down. The Pelicans were kind of just like messing around with the Lakers, it kind of seemed, and the Lakers were willing to give up Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Zubac, 2 first-round picks, and take back Solomon Hill. They were willing to give up a lot, which I think was a really good package, but the Pelicans just really didn't want that at all, or just really didn't want to trade AD to LA in general. So after all this didn't go down, I don't know, I feel like it did provide some locker room struggles, which I think is just going to be kind of luring over them for the rest of the year, which is a pretty big L. They did make 2 moves at the deadline. They did trade Svi Mikhailiuk and a second for Reggie Bullock. I do like that trade, but I didn't really get the Zubac and Beasley from Mike Muscala. I get Mike Muscala is a pretty good player, and he can shoot the ball. I mean, he's shooting around 34% this year. It's not bad for a big man, but I didn't get this trade. You could have definitely just swapped Beasley in a second or something for Muscala and waived, or what you could have did is just not made this trade in general and just waived Beasley and keep Zubac. You basically traded Zubac for Mike Muscala, which I didn't really like at all. I think that was a pretty big L, and obviously they did that for a buyout option because the buyout market's going to be pretty big. You have Carmelo, you have Canner, you have, who else is still on the market? I think Ellington signed, and Wesley Matthews kind of agreed that they've signed elsewhere. But you know what I mean? I just feel like it was a trade they didn't have to make at all. I did like the Reggie Bullock trade, but I thought just obviously not getting AD or just putting all that out there for AD and not getting him. And then the Zubac trade, I just really don't like. So they're going to come in my loser section. Now, another loser is a team actually that didn't make a trade at all. And I know we all talk about how the Pelicans really never gave AD any help throughout his career in New Orleans, but they gave him Jrue Holiday, they've given him DeMarcus Cousins, they gave him Mirotic, they put some solid players on him. This team here, they've literally done their star player dirty, and that's the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets made 0 moves at the deadline. There were some talks that they were trying to acquire Marc Gasol, which they would have been the winners in my books if they were able to do that, but maybe Memphis wanted a Miles Bridges or a Malik Monk, and they're just no way, or they wanted their first this year, and they're we're not giving up our first this year for Marc Gasol, something like that. But literally, Kemba Walker has literally played, I think, with 1 All-Star teammate, and that was Al Jefferson from 2013 to 14, or 2014 to 15. The year they made the playoffs, I think. I don't know if he was an actual All-Star, but he put up All-Star type numbers, and that was it. That's the best player he's ever played with. The next best player on his team, besides Al Jefferson for those 2 years, has been Nicholas Batum and Gerald Henderson, basically. They have put literally no one around Kemba. They've given Cody Zeller, well, they've traded for Bismack Biyombo, Cody Zeller, Dwight Howard. I mean, Dwight Howard wasn't bad either, but Cody Zeller, Nicholas Batum, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Frank Kaminsky. Just bad contract guys around him, which really didn't limit them to be able to do other things. And also, they haven't really drafted the best. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, pretty, a bust for the number 2 overall pick. Not a terrible player, but a bust for the 2nd round pick. Also, Marvin Williams, another bad deal. Frank Kaminsky, I'm pretty sure they could have gotten 4 picks for him. And they're no, we like Frank Kaminsky. I'm pretty sure that was the Celtics wanting Frank Kaminsky a lot, or that was for Winslow. I don't remember, but Frank Kaminsky, not a good pick. Cody Zeller, not a good pick. They literally, since drafting Kemba Walker, had 2 top 5 picks, and they came away with Cody Zeller and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Credit the 13 draft, where Cody Zeller was drafted. Wasn't really good, top 5 anyway. The best was Oladipo, and he went number 2, I believe, and number 3 was Cody Zeller, or he was number 4. That was the Anthony Bennett, number 1. But the Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, terrible. When Bradley Beal, I believe, was the pick after. Andre Drummond was a top 10 pick in that draft. Even Harrison Barnes, Damian Lillard. Oh my God. The Hornets, big L's. Kemba just leave. They don't deserve Kemba at all. Even if they throw the max money at him and play him every minute of the night and make him the Charlotte's mayor, they don't deserve him. They don't. He should leave. They're big losers here. I wanted to throw the Celtics here, just because they didn't really make any moves at the deadline while the other guys in the Eastern Conference the Bucks, Sixers, and Raptors did. But I'm not going to really put them on there. They're really a good team. They could test the buyout market here, and as Canner could be to them. So they're not really losers in my book. The last team coming on my losers list is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, it's kind of for this deadline, it's kind of what they haven't been doing for the past couple years, and they waited way too late to trade Marc Gasol. We all knew this. They didn't move Mike Conley, which I'm okay with. I'd rather have moved Marc Gasol anyway. Now, they're going to obviously tank for the rest of the year. Their pick is top 8 protected. They're probably going to get into that top 8, get to keep that pick. And I believe that pick next year is top 5 protected still. So with JJJ, their first round pick, and Conley, maybe they're still hoping to be bad next year. Or maybe they don't care. They're still going to try to push for the playoffs next year, and they don't really care about that pick at all. Then it would go to Boston. But by 2021, it goes unprotected, and you don't want to be bad by then. You don't want to have a bottom 5 season and not even get to keep your pick. Just ask Nets fans how that felt. But they moved Marc Gasol for Jonas Valanciunas. Okay, not a bad player, not at all, but not really like an elite player or a young elite player in return, or a young player with really high potential or upside. DeLon Wright, good defender, good playmaker, or not a great defender, but good playmaker. He's still fairly young. I believe he's in his mid-20s. As kind of like a combo guard guy. That was like the most promising player they got, and a 2024 second-round pick. CJ Miles has not been good this year at all, and I'm sure he's not going to be on this team past this year, unless he does have a player option. Or that was last year. Don't remember. But I don't know. CJ Miles as your return, and like Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, a 2024 second-round pick, which is like a 9th grader right now, literally sitting in like English class. I don't know. I think that's a pretty big L for a Marc Gasol, who's whatever X-time All-Star. He's been in here a lot probably. But what they should have done was traded him 2 years ago. Like, literally, once Zach Randolph was off this team, and the Warriors were becoming that dynasty, they should have moved him. The year Kevin Durant signed with the Warriors, that was the offseason. They should have moved him 100%. But they were incompetent. I mean, I know you don't want to move on from your star player that's been there for so long and gave so much to your franchise, but you have to realize you've got to get out of your sentimental, like, feels. You don't want to, like, set your team back, and what they did. They literally could have gotten, like, not like the equivalent to like a Brandon Ingram, but like something around that young potential, like, guy with high potential that's just young, a high draft pick back in that offseason. I'm not saying like Brandon Ingram obviously, but somebody like kind of in that caliber. I think they could have gotten a return for Marc Gasol, but they waited too long and they ended up getting a really not that good of a return. So we're gonna enter into the middle tier, kind of winners slash losers, guys. So I have 4.5 teams here. I have a half a team in this section and like another half in the winner section. I'll get to that. So the first team is the Orlando Magic. I would have given them a winner just based off the Markelle Fultz trade, but not being able to acquire another asset for Terrence Ross at the deadline just really boggles my mind, unless they really have future plans for him. Also, Vucevic, I would have liked to see them test the market for, because I don't really think they should bring him back next year unless they think him and Bamba can coexist on the floor at the same time. Because why would you draft Bamba, whatever, with the 6th overall pick and not use him up to his full potential? That would be really dumb, because I don't know, you had Vucevic as a young good player, then you decided to sign Biyombo. Jonathan Isaac really hasn't turned into much either, because he's really not a true 3, but you can't really play him and Gordon on the floor at the same time. I mean, it just really isn't working out. So I think I love the Fultz trade. Big dump for them. He was the #1 overall pick literally a year and a half ago, and he's just been hurt, and he really hasn't been put in a good situation. I really think if they can get him right, he can actually live up to that #1 potential hype. And even if he doesn't, and he's just a bust, you gave up literally Jonathan Simmons. Okay, it's Jonathan Simmons. It's not like you're going to cry at night over him. And then you gave up a top 20 protected first, okay, and you gave up a 2nd round pick. So you really gave up nothing major at all for Markelle Fultz. So big dump for them. The reason they're there in the mid-tier and not the winners is because I wish they kind of got something for Terrence Ross or Vucevic. If you look at Houston, they traded Brandon Knight. They had that Brandon Knight contract to match with teams. Why not just get Houston's first? Why not just tag on an extra first? Unless they think Ross will be on their future plans, which is okay, but that just held me back from putting them at the winner section. Another mid-tier team is the Chicago Bulls. I really like the Otto Porter pickup, but I don't know if I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I know he played pretty well last night against the Brooklyn Nets, but making 26 mil and then 27 mil, or it's 27 mil then 28 mil. It's a lot of money to invest in a small forward, but maybe they didn't really think that they're going to be really a free agency destination come the off season. But I mean, they're not, like, once his contract's up in what, the 2020 2021 season, something like that, that'll be when marketing is due for his rookie extension. So it'll kind of work out perfectly there, and then Carter Jr. is not for the year after. I could really see them moving on from Chris Dunn in the offseason, but I don't know. I think this was a fairly good trade for them. Not a great trade to put them in the winner section, but a good pickup in Otto Porter. Next team is the Sacramento Kings. Now, I would have put the Kings in the winner section just for getting Harrison Barnes alone. I really like the pickup, especially if they're going to work on an extension for him, so they don't have to pay him $25 million anymore. And I think he can nullify the player option or something like that. If they just work out, like he'll opt out and they'll sign him to like a 4-year, $50 million deal or 4-year, $60 million deal where they're paying him $15 million instead of $25 million. I would really like that a lot. I really like the pickup just as another scorer for them, another kind of veteran presence to that younger team. I just hope he plays more like the Golden State Harrison Barnes, not like the Dallas Mavericks. Like, he's not demanding the ball a lot. He's not being the primary, like, scorer. Him getting his post-ups and just ISOs and like him controlling the pick and roll. I hope it's kind of more off-ball stuff and he can get his shots, but I just hope it's still healed. Bogdanovich, like Bagley, Fox that get their work, so it's mainly healed and Fox. But I really like the Harrison Barnes pickup. The reason that they're not in the winner section is because of the Iman Shumpert trade. Really didn't like that trade at all. You gave up basically him in return for Alec Burks. You don't really need Alec Burks at all. Like, yeah, he's a cool scorer and all, but you don't really need that. Shumpert was a good veteran presence, great freaking defender, and just was a leader. And you gave that up. I don't really like that trade at all. I think that was actually one of the worst trades they could have made at the deadline, or one of the worst trades that happened at the deadline for them. But hey, what are you going to do? I do like the pickup, though, for Harrison Barnes, so that's why they're in my middle section. And the last team is the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, you might be like, okay, you're maybe giving a little praise to the Pelicans. Now, I do like the Mirotic pickup. You did get 4 second-round picks, so I think that's a pretty good haul in return for a guy that was just going to probably leave you in free agency. I'm glad they didn't trade Julius Randle. I think they should definitely try to re-sign him in the offseason and pay the man, especially when they're going to trade Anthony Davis. And I do kind of like them not caving in and being desperate and just panicking and trading Anthony Davis at the deadline for Ingram, Kuzma, Lonzo, and whatever else that package was. Because I'd like them to, in the offseason, to reassess their options. They could maybe pull off a Zion trade, and maybe the Knicks or maybe the Bulls get the #1 pick, and they're like, all right, we'll give you the #1 overall pick. You give us Anthony Davis, or we'll throw in another asset or two. And they might be like, all right, let's do it. And they can get Zion, or they might get Jason Tatum in the offseason, and like that Grizzlies and Clippers pick from the Celtics, and Marcus Smart, and maybe like Gordon Hayward, and they don't have to rebuild for much longer because that's a really good haul in a world that they can compete for the playoffs next year. So I think this is a dub for them. It was really close. I really wasn't going to put them in the losers. I don't really think they were losers at all. But obviously they're not winners, but I think mid-tier was perfect for them. So the other team is the 76ers just because of the Fultz trade. I love the Tobias Harris trade. I'm going to get to that because the other side of them will be in the winner section. But I'm not a fan of the Fultz trade. I live in Philly. I talk to Philly Sixers fans, every day, and they hate Fultz. They just wanted him. I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm like, all right, say we gave you Moutier and Noah Vonleh, or Moutier in a second for Fultz, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, really? Like, you're that low on Fultz? And clearly they were. They gave him for Jonathan Simmons. I'd rather have seen them get Terrence Ross, but Simmons isn't a bad player either. At least they got a good guy that can help them down the stretch for their playoff run and their hopefully finals run. And they got a protected first and a second for the #1 overall pick that you gave up that Kings pick and your 3rd pick for him, and you basically turned the #3 overall pick and where they were originally and the Kings pick that they had in the future for Jonathan Simmons, a heavy protected first and a 2nd-round pick just a year after. This isn't like 5 years ago and Fultz is a bona fide bust. No, this was a year and a half ago, and the dude has not played more than 20 games in a season because he's been hurt, or not more than 30 games. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I really think they gave up on him way too quickly. I know him and Simmons maybe it never worked out, but they just gave up on him, and I really didn't like that trade at all for them. So now my winners, I just talked about them, the Philadelphia 76ers. I love the Tobias Harris trade. I actually think he fits this team better than Jimmy Butler as like a stretch forward guy that doesn't really demand the ball in his hands. I saw a stat that he is the lowest usage percentage for somebody averaging over 20 points in the NBA, for anybody averaging over 20 points, which I thought was really cool. I think he's going to fit that team perfectly, and I think he actually has a better chance of re-signing than Jimmy Butler. I've talked about it. I think that a team of like Ben Simmons, Embiid, Tobias Harris, Covington, and Sarge would look a lot better than what they had now, or just, I feel like, play a lot better. But Jimmy Butler's no slouch. He's obviously an all-star type player, one of the best players in the NBA, and I think they have a really good shot after making this Tobias Harris trade to get to the finals. Now, Landry Shamet, really good shooter, really good offensive player with a lot of potential, not a good defender at all, so it's not like you just traded, I don't know, like a top 10 pick guy. I think he was a 2nd-round pick or something like that. You gave up a 2021 Miami pick, which was kind of the big pick out of this, and a future first, I think like a 2020 Sixers first. Now, that Miami pick could be really good. And if Tobias Harris leaves and that Miami pick's a top 5 pick, this could come back to haunt them. But I really like this trade at all. And even if Tobias Harris does leave, you really didn't give up so much that's going to set you back. It's not like you gave up Covington and Sarge for this guy. You gave up a good like shooter off your bench and a a pick, like the most valuable, like your pick next year, which won't be that good because you'll make the playoffs next year, and a 2021 first, that's not even your pick, so who cares? So I like this trade a lot for the Sixers. I actually have a couple more winners here, actually a decent amount. So the next one is the Bucks. I love the Mirotic pickup. I love it, love it, love it. They gave up 4 second-round picks. What was it? Jason Smith and Stanley Johnson, who they just got for Thon Maker. So it's basically like Thon Maker in 4 seconds for Mirotic. Really like it. I think only one of those second-round picks was theirs. I think the Nuggets had 1, the Wizards had 2 or something like that, and only 1 was theirs. Love the pickup. He's going to be able to spread the floor. I don't think he's going to start right away because I don't think they're going to want to mess up what they had going, but he's a great pickup. He could shoot. And with Giannis, I saw somebody make a comparison on Twitter to this, to like the 2009 Orlando Magic team where you have like your dominant big man, which kind of Giannis is a dominant big man, even though he's a small forward, even though he plays everywhere. And you just surround him with shooters like Bledsoe, Brogdon, Middleton, Mirotic, Lopez. And it's kind of like how that Orlando Magic team with Sam Van Gundy ran, where they just had Dwight Howard in the post. They would double team because he was such a dominant offensive force, and he would just kick it out to Turkoglu, Lewis, Jameer Nelson. I think JJ Redick was there as well. So it's kind of like what they're going to replicate from there, and I really like it. Budenholzer, a great coach. He's going to work with them well. Bucks, big winners this deadline. The next team is the Raptors. I love the Marc Gasol pickup. I actually really would have liked this if they pulled off that Lowry and Valanciunas for Conley and Gasol, but maybe they would have had to give up Anunoby because Conley's still younger than Gasol. I believe Conley's 31, Gasol's like 35, but I still like this trade a lot. Marc Gasol, one of the best setters in the NBA still. I wouldn't say he's a top 5 center in the NBA, but definitely still a top 10 center in the NBA. He's actually picked it up like a lot. He's actually been playing really well as of late compared to his slow start from the beginning of the year, and I think he's going to be really good for this team. Yes, you lose a little bit of depth, but really, what? You're going to have Lowry, Green, Pascal, Kawhi, Gasol, Ibaka, Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, and like Norman Powell, and that's pretty much your rotation. So like that's what it would be in the playoffs anyway. Teams really don't go above like 9-man rotations unless you're super deep. So I really like this pickup. Marc Gasol, still not the worst defender in the world, and like Siakam and Ibaka can complement him well because he's still an okay defender and a really good offensive player. He's probably gonna be their second offensive option maybe, because now Lowry, I can see Lowry just averaging around like 10 to 14 points for the rest of the year and averaging around 10 to 14 assists. The next winner is, I was really close to either putting them in the mid-tier or the winner section, but I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, picking up Kristaps Porzingis is huge. It is a huge risk, giving up Dennis Smith Jr. 2 firsts and taking on a couple bad contracts. But if Kristaps comes back to what he was pre-ACL tear, that team's going to be scary for a while. He's 22, 23, Kristaps. Luka's, what, 19, 20. And, yeah, if they re-sign Kristaps, the max deal for the rookie extension, 5-year, 150 or 130, and Luka is just going to continue to get better. I really like this a lot. Also, it's not even this trade. I really like the Harrison Barnes move a little bit more for them, because now they can squeeze their way to a max deal in the offseason, and I've said it, and I would love for them to pick up Kemba Walker. Love it. And I know you're like, oh, Kemba Walker, kind of a ball-dominant point guard, and Luka, but Kemba Walker can work off the ball perfectly with Luka's, like, A1 passing skills. I don't know. I would just love to see Kemba there, and obviously other guys, like, I would like to see, like, DeMarcus there or Nikola Vucevic, I think would be a really clean pickup for them. So I really hope they offer a max deal, because I would love to see a third star or a third elite all-star type player with Kristaps and Luka. So I hope that happens, and I really like that Harrison Barnes trade because it gives them cap flexibility for the offseason, even though they just looked really bad because they had Barnes for next year making 25 mil, and Hardaway making about 20, and we making 12, and they're going to have to pay Kristaps 25 mil. But now, giving up that Barnes, they could wait a little bit for the Kristaps extension, wait till after free agency, and then they could go after like a Kemba, Vucevic, Cousins, somebody like that. All right, I got 3 more winners. I'm not going to talk about them too much, so I'll go with them pretty quickly. Washington Wizards, one of them. I really like the Otto Porter trade and the Markieff Morris trade. I know it, I mean, the Markieff Morris trade was a pretty big salary dump to give up a second-round pick, or not like a big salary dump, like a not that big of a salary dump to give up a second-round pick, to put it bluntly. But I still like them clearing cap a lot. I especially like the Otto Porter move. Now, really, after this year, besides obviously John Wall's, I guess it's a bad contract, even though he's an elite player. It's really the only bad contract you're going to have is Jan Mahimi, who's going to be making like 15 mil next year. So after next year, you actually might have some cap flexibility depending on if they move Beal or not. I do like Portis, who will be a restricted free agent this offseason. I think he's a very efficient power forward, and I hope he doesn't demand a lot of money because I would like to see him back in Washington. But yeah, I really like this. They also got a second-round pick out of this trade, which is pretty good. And they also picked up Jabari Parker, which I don't see him being here next year, unless they like him a lot and they'll give him like a 1-year, $8 million deal and he can maybe prove his worth again, because he really kind of robbed the Bulls of 20 freaking mil. Definitely not a $20 million worth player, but there is no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. So I think the Wizards are winners in this trade, and I do like that pick up of Bobby Portis a lot, and they got to clear up some cap and put them under the luxury tax and stuff like that. The next one, nobody's really talking about, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, they basically moved, Alec Burks this deadline and got a first-round pick from Houston out of it. Who cares? I know it's going to be like the 27th pick in the draft, but you still got a first-round pick for Alec freaking Burks, and then you got, obviously, trading George Hill. You got a first-round for that back. I don't know, what was that, December when they shipped George Hill to Milwaukee. I really like this. I think they picked up like 6 second-round picks this season and 2 firsts. And they didn't even move Kevin Love yet, which they might do in the offseason. We'll see. I didn't really like the extension they gave him at all. I think they should have definitely tried to move him. But, hey, I think this is a big deal for the Cavs. They're obviously still one of the worst teams in the NBA in rebuilding, and they're going to have a top pick this draft to pair with Colin Sexton and maybe Jetty Osman and like Tristan Thompson, who's playing pretty well this year. But next year, they aren't going to have their first-round pick, which is going to suck. So I hope they can do something. And it's either they get Zion or RJ Barrett that can maybe make them go to the playoffs next year with Kevin Love, and they can do something in the offseason because they don't have their first next year. It's going to go to Atlanta. So I think they're still winners at this deadline, getting 2 first-round picks and a bunch of seconds for guys that they wouldn't really have in their future plans. Anyway, I have one more winner, and that is the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers, literally, I like this trade a lot. I know it sucks moving Tobias Harris. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, which I like because they'll be able to keep their first-round pick so they can add another nice young player to Shai Gilgeous and Jerome Robinson and Montrezl Harrell. They also picked up Zubats. I really like that trade. And now the Clippers, I think all they got to do is move Lou Will. Then obviously if they can move Gallinari, who's proved his kind of worth this season, but he does have a hefty contract. And if they do move one of those 2 guys, I believe that they can now offer 2 max deals and join the Knicks as the only teams that can offer 2 max deals this offseason. And it's LA, big free agency destination. I know they really want to go after Kawhi Leonard. Maybe they can go after Kawhi and Kyrie or Kawhi and Kemba or Kawhi and KD, something like that. Be on the lookout for the Clippers. I think they're big winners this deadline. That is going to be for me. Let me know your winners, kind of like mid-tier, like winners/losers, and your losers in the comment section below. Did I leave anybody out? Should I have not made somebody on this list? Let me know in the comment section below. Drop a like if you guys did enjoy this video. You'll have an Otto Porter Bulls rebound out later today. Another double upload. So thank you all for watching. I love you guys. See you guys next video. Peace.